morning, Nigeria. It's always good to laugh. It's it just takes off a lot of things. Well, when Nollywood started in Lagos, Nigeria, not just in Lagos, in Nigeria, there wasn't any formal structure as to the professional associations, distribution, actors, minimum wage, and so on and so forth. And mutual interest was not, defined. Well, guess what? We'll be talking about that and more today on the show. It's time for our top story. Welcome on board. You can join us on facebook.com/CoolTV Nigeria, or better still, go onto Twitter and tweet at GMNSCoolTV. Like I said earlier on in our opening, I said it's only in Nollywood that you get to see a ghost turn left and right before crossing the road. How does that happen? Let's talk about that with Mr. Moses Babatokba. He is the Group Executive Director and COO of the Film One Distribution Company. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Moses.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
All
Great
right.
to be here. Thanks.
Let's start off with I know you are a stakeholder in this industry right now. Let's start with your overall perception to the structure of Nollywood from then and now.
Wow. Okay. Big question. I think the industry has come a long way. So Film One Distribution, what we set out to do, we're a theatrical distribution company, and mainly we get films, into cinemas. And that's the structure that is practiced everywhere else in the world, where films come first to the cinema and then they gradually go onto different distribution windows.
It's practiced around the world, but this just started in Nigeria.
This just
That's what I
started
want to know. It doesn't happen because a lot of people don't know what film distributors actually do.
They feel they don't even have a place in Nigeria.
You make a film and then you put it out there. How does having a film distributor, how will it personally help if you're a filmmaker and you have a film? What will it do for them?
I always liken film distribution to, for example, what a travel agency would do. So, for example, a distributor is essentially...
Cheapest rate?
That's It's essentially a broker, essentially an agency that basically takes the product to the exhibitor. And what he does for you or he or she or the institution does for you is to look for the best deals that will maximize the commercial potential of your film. Imagine if you're a producer, you're more artistic, you're more about making, the film for your audience.
You don't want to bog down thinking about marketing,
what cinemas, what marketing, what airlines, what TV stations you'll be taking it to. You want someone to be able to do that work for you.
Like a promoter for music.
A promoter, it's an all-encompassing, type of profession that a distributor does. But essentially, is a marketer. And it's and marketing and distribution are the core functions.
So what makes people, bypass using, the middleman, if we call you that? Is it cheaper perhaps to, do it on your own? But then in the long run, will you lose out by not being able to, get the best deal that a distributor might be able to get?
I think for long periods is because of the lack of structure that the industry, has had to, accept. But you have to give credit to this Nollywood industry where people have literally created something on their own without any kind of government support, without any kind of infrastructure, with piracy heavy, laden, no real kind of financial, support. So people have always found ways of, innovative ways of, creating their own audiences and getting their products to those audiences. And those audiences might be small pockets of a few thousands here and there, but they make the films for very, very limited amounts, and they're able to sell to the audience and make a margin. They've never been really exposed to perhaps a global audience where you have the diaspora in the US or the UK or in South Africa that consume those kind of products. Now, a good distributor will be able to take a very good Nigerian film, not only to show in Nigeria, but to show in the UK, but to show in the US, and to show in South Africa, and to show in pockets where diaspora Africans or Nigerians.
Thank God you mentioned financing, because that has been an issue that you've been talked about, and even controversies have risen from that aspect. So let's start from the top. So the producer gets a budget for a movie, just as you did for Half of a Yellow Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to, Half of a Yellow in the Sun.
We'll chip that in, but let's
we'll
just, from a general perspective now, how does the money trickle down to the actor? Because I think it's not just the finance for the budget for the movie that's the issue. It's the payment for these actors and the actresses. That's an issue as well.
Yeah, I always tell people that we're in the building stages for the industry, and very, very shortly, I believe, the rewards for partaking or being part of successful, productions would start coming to the actors. At this time, we're still trying to define the industry very well.
But there's something that paid $2 million for a role. $1 million. Why is there so much, inequality?
Yeah. I don't want to say it happens it happens everywhere else. It does happen. You have the $20 million actors in the US. Probably they're no more than 10. And you have a lot of them that, struggle between the $500,000 and $5 million bracket. There's so much of them. But at least there are, what's it called? There are points that, are attached to the top, actors and actresses.
And this has nothing to do with the marketers?
No, it doesn't really have much to do with the marketers. And with the kind of thing we are trying to do as, I don't want to call ourselves professional distributors. What we're trying to do is, like I said, create a structure where you are able to see what the film makes from the cinema to online, to what it will make on TV, to what it will make in flight, to what it will make on DVD.
And at the end, what's the ratio like between the marketers and the producer?
Okay, I'm trying to stay away from the word marketer, because the word marketer kind of it boxes you into more DVD type thing. Like we have filmmakers that just
the distributor.
Distributor that make films specifically for the DVD market.
So what's
and so the marketers commission their films and they get the money back. They basically finance the films and just get the money back.
So let's talk about some of the films that Film One Distribution has been responsible for releasing, and they're huge. Many of you probably know of them. Half of a Yellow Sun, October 1st, Heaven's Hell. Woo.
Yeah,
we have to personally cheer for that. When Love Happens and Gone Too Far. Now, with two of these films that spring to my mind, Half of a Yellow Sun, and also with Heaven's Hell, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding their release, and there's a problem that's sometimes faced with Nigerian filmmakers. They put these films together and they can come to your company and then they hope for the best, but what blocks that from happening, from them actually being released sometimes?
Sometimes it's censorship issues sometimes. I think the filmmakers, the producers and the distributors alike have a responsibility to understand censorship guidelines.
Do you have an understanding of that?
We have a fair understanding. We know what to stay away from, and we try to advise filmmakers on what to stay away from and on what to do to get favorable classification, because the classification process or censorship process as it's done in Nigeria is a very fundamental part of of your ability to generate maximum revenues at the box office. So for example, if you're doing an 18 film, you've restricted your audience to 18 and above. But if you get a 12A, for example, that's a wider audience.
What's the rating for Heaven's Hell?
Heaven's Hell, we're still working on it because it's now been moved to April. It was supposed to be out this Friday, but we moved it for professional reasons, and we're hoping for something like a 15 or 12A for Heaven's Hell. It's a film we're really excited about, and it's one of those films that we are confident in the first quarter of the year should do very, very good business.
Well, if you didn't know who produced Heaven's Hell, let's give you an insight. It's our very own producer. Remember the Big Brother winner, Katunga Duwak? He is the producer of that movie. And like he said, in April, we're looking forward to that premiere and release of the movie. So you talked about Censors Board. Are they more, as in what's their role? I understand that you've talked about, the packaging and content, screening and all that. But then what other good do they actually add to the industry as a structure? I mean, if we keep having this whole roadblocks, you say you have a fair knowledge of what the requirements, but then you still meet these roadblocks at some point. So what is it exactly with them? Are they doing more good than harm?
I have to commend them for what they're trying to do. They're regulators, and they're supposed to ensure that the film content that is consumed by the general public is one that is consistent with our values, our culture, our tradition. And all over the world, there are film regulatory bodies that do this, and they're no different.
Well, Moses, I commend you for commending them. But from a financial point of view, what does it do to if you set out, you have a release date of a movie? Yeah. I'm thinking that there might be some financial implications from having to push the date forward from when you'll release the movie.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's why even before making the film, our advice to filmmakers, even as distributors, because we don't want to be put in a position where we start advertising to the public and we spent a lot of money marketing the film, and only to be told that we cannot release the film, or to be told we have to go and re-edit. That's not what we want to be doing. So we're saying to the filmmakers, saying to stakeholders, get yourself familiar with,
So you're blaming the filmmakers much more than you're
I'm not blaming anybody particularly. I'm just saying that we should get ourselves more
just be aware
of what the Censors Board requires us to be making.
Okay, speaking of requirements, Half of a Yellow Sun hit a dead end at some point, and now we're seeing the same thing, almost a repeat with Heaven's Hell. What exactly were those roadblocks with Half of a Yellow Sun that's having a repeat with
I have to say, with Heaven's Hell, we don't have any issues with them. So that we don't have any issues with them. With Heaven's Hell, we just wanted to move it to a more
acceptable date.
Would I say acceptable? Will give us more of a chance of succeeding. I mean, with the elections coming up, and
very
the number
well. It has nothing to do with the Censors Board.
Nothing to do with the Censors Board.
It's fine for release.
It will be fine for release. We don't see any issues.
But back to Half of a Yellow Sun.
What was the trailer?
What are those roadblocks that you met? That you talked about culture, heritage, being propagated. What were those? Because we were at the premiere, myself and Tulu, and
okay, great.
There were some sins that were there, and at the end of the day, we're taking out because of those whole review and everything. So what happened exactly?
We live in a very, I don't want to call it, it's a dynamic, unique country. I'm proud to be Nigerian. But the time we were trying to release Half of Yellow Sun was, times of heightened insecurity in the country. The whole Boko Haram, and then the unfortunate incidents with the girls that were missing, and Half of Yellow Sun was one of those, films that was really showing us the sensitivities, in Nigeria, Biafra, and everything. And in retrospect, you could see not why they stopped us from releasing, but you could see what their concerns were.
What? It was going to stir violence?
Their concerns were like, film is such a powerful tool.
People are going to know more.
In Nigeria, and they were just concerned that perhaps some of the things we were depicting could just get people, affected in the wrong way.
Movies are supposed to interpret history, right? To some point. They're supposed to tell you how to live, your lifestyle and everything. Wasn't that what the message was in Half of a Yellow Sun? Should we lie to the audience at some point?
We shouldn't. And I don't think the brief of the Censors Board is to kind of curb anybody's artistic, expression or anything. But they also have a duty, like I said, to regulate, and because somebody else can come out to you and say the artistic expression is to do adult movies. And they have a responsibility to kind of, moderate that.
So, you as a film distributor now, what did you think I was going to call you?
Marketer.
Just let stay away from that.
So you now as a film distributor, having gone through what you went through with, releasing Half of a Yellow Sun, if I'm a filmmaker, I've put together a film that will still highlight perhaps, what happened in Biafra or tensions between different tribal groups in Nigeria. Is that something, if you felt the film was good, would you take something like that on, or do you steer away from that?
Before you attend to that question, now you might have challenges with Nollywood, you might have questions for the film distributor, Film One distributor, CEO in-house. So please put forward your questions to us. We'll be taking them live on our phone numbers. They are 012-778-196, 012-777-196, 012-772-196. We'll be taking at least 3 calls, so put your calls through. You have issues, challenges, or your expectations of Nollywood. Let's talk about that. Sorry, please go ahead.
So yes, as I was saying, if I want to put forward that type of a movie to you, is that something you would take on?
I'm a film distributor. My first criteria for any film is commercial viability. If the film I find is commercially viable, I like the casting in it. I think the story is good, the technical quality is good. The title is catchy. I would consider that film. I remember I also have some professional background and some understanding of how the censors board works. And so that means that before the process of censoring, I'm able to give professional advice to the filmmaker to say, this might not fly, this might fly. How about looking at editing it before we start spending money on marketing, for example? So yes is the answer to your question. If I find another story that touches on sensitive areas, but I feel has the ability to entertain and gain a captive audience that will pay their naira to watch it or consume it at various various distribution windows, yes, I will go for it. But like I said, with the full understanding of what the censors board wants, so that we're complying and everybody's happy.
Nollywood as a whole, let's look at would you say that the government, as a structure on its own, would you say that they're supportive of Nollywood? It's actually grown. Some think so, some people don't think so. We have the likes of Ibinabo Fibrosima, who has been very vocal and very close to the government recently, and she's come under criticism for that. But then, what would you expect the relationship of the government to be with Nollywood at this point?
Okay. I wanted to say I'll stay away from the politics, but I'll also state the facts. I think that in the last year, 2014 particularly, was a wonderful year for Nollywood, particularly in the cinemas. And the cinema provides you the most authentic kind of picture of where the industry is. Every other form, and I pay dues to the Alaba market and all the other stakeholders trying to do great things for the industry, but we don't have data to support how well the industry is doing at that level. With cinemas, we have data. We released about 28 films in 2014 in cinemas in Nigeria. The top 5 films grossed about 300 million, in 16 cinemas. Anywhere in the world, that is, outstanding. Going to your question about the government, this government has actually done very well for Nollywood. I don't want to play politics about it at this sensitive area, but they've done well. The 200 million naira grant, I believe some people had access to it. Half of Yellowstone, had access to it. Half of Yellowstone, I believe, had access to it. A few other films, I'm not too sure that they want to be out there.
How was it distributed? Because that was also an issue in the news.
Yeah, half of Yellowstone.
The 200 million.
The 200 million. I'll leave it to those that administer the fund. Administer the fund. They were not the ones. It was a fund managed by the Bank of Industry. There was a very, very clear criteria. People were benefactors of it, and it worked for those people. The cinema industry, those that built cinemas also. So I work for a group of companies, exhibition and distribution. Okay. We were also benefactors of, the fund. And there was the distribution fund for Project Act. So there's been a number of initiatives that have come up. There's been academic forum. There's been interactive sessions.
Lots
the presidency seems to have kind of realized.
Okay.
Well, let's hope whoever is elected next month will continue.
I think it's going to be difficult to ignore the industry now because of how it's shown organic growth.
That means if you say that means you definitely encourage entertainers going into politics. Yes or no?
I'm not in support, really. I think they should. I think they should remain in that.
Expecting a different answer.
No, I honestly think they should
stick to entertainment.
Yeah, stick to remain in their craft. But let's do more lobbying. Let's do more, trying to get the government to make the industry work better for us.
There you have it. Thank you so much for coming.
No problem.
And we'll be looking forward to the release of Heaven's Hell come April, Easter, possibly.
Yeah, come April. Yeah, we have a film out in the cinemas now called Gone Too Far, starring Osi KJ. Please try and catch it. On Friday next week, The Department, starring Osasi Godaro.
The premiere
Maji
or
Mitchell.
just?
The premiere is this Sunday,
Okay.
I believe, and the release across cinemas is January 30.
So lots coming up.
So lots coming up and lots to look forward to.
Well, we had the pleasure of speaking with the COO of the Film One Distribution Company and the Group Executive Director in person of Moses Babatokwe. Thank you so much for coming once again.
Thank you so
And
much.
looking
Thank you
forward
for
to your
having me.
thoughts and comments about Nollywood, the distribution and management on facebook.com/Cool TV Nigeria.